This is CBC Vancouver News.
She was with her little daughter. She was a lovely mom. I witnessed it.
Family members and support workers are demanding answers after police shoot and kill a Surrey mom. What led to her final moments? Plus,
they woke up to this, their glass shattering, and then they literally ran away, my cousin and his wife.
as their loved ones flee violence in Lebanon, families here in BC wait in fear. And from apprenticeships to mental health care, power generation to insect stings.
It was a bee. I'm fine.
We have the latest on the provincial election campaign. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. Support workers and family members of a Surrey woman shot and killed by police want answers and accountability. Vanessa Valencia was killed by an RCMP officer after allegedly barricading herself in a room with her child. As John Hernandez reports, calls are growing for a transparent investigation into her death.
And we want justice. We are sad. We are angry.
7 days after Vanessa Valencia was killed by police, her family, friends, and supporters say they're still in the dark.
There is no justification for this. And the community is gonna fight for justice for her and also for her family.
Valencia, a newcomer to Canada from Colombia, was known well around her community in Surrey. She was a union activist, an avid learner, and a mom.
She was a loving mother. She took care of her daughter, and she went to a shelter when she felt unsafe at home.
Valencia's support workers say she was in and out of women's shelters before moving back in with her husband earlier this month. On the early hours of September 19th, police were called to the home. RCMP say she was barricaded in a room, allegedly holding a weapon near a child. After an interaction with an officer, she was shot and killed.
What we don't know is if the RCMP followed their protocols using an interpreter. However, we have reason to believe that the interpreter was her husband in this case. We do not know if the RCMP attempted any type of de-escalation.
Police aren't commenting on the case, which is currently under independent review. Those who knew Valencia don't believe she would have ever harmed her daughter.
She was a lovely mom. I witnessed it.
Her family, speaking from Colombia via an interpreter, say they've yet to receive a Canadian travel visa.
We would need to be able to come to Canada to be able to identify and find out more about what happened to Vanessa.
So far, thousands of dollars have been raised to bring her family to Canada. Meanwhile, supporters say the case shines a light on challenges endured by immigrant and racialized communities.
I am here to ask for justice for her, but not just for Vanessa. There is a lot of immigrant women who are not receiving the support from the system.
BC's Independent Investigation Office says it's now trying to determine whether the lethal use of force against Vanessa was necessary. John Hernandez, CBC News, Surrey.
It's been another busy day of campaigning for BC's main political parties. David Eby was in Nanaimo, where the BC NDP is facing an uphill battle to hold on to 2 seats amid growing frustration over crime and public drug use. The CBC's legislative reporter Katie DeRosa was there.
Well, NDP leader David Eby is holding a rally here in Nanaimo, and he actually just a few minutes ago announced plans to add a new patient care tower at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. It was a surprise announcement, and it got a standing ovation from people in the room. Eby says it's part of the NDP's focus on addressing ER wait times, which have been a source of frustration in Nanaimo, and improving healthcare services in the Mid-Island.
It's not enough. And that's why I'm so excited to be here with you tonight to share with you that if we earn the trust of British Columbians in this election and we're returned to government, we're going to build that new patient care tower at Nanaimo Hospital and make sure that people in Nanaimo are looked after. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do.
Well, the Conservatives are hoping to capitalize on public backlash to homelessness, crime, and open drug use. John Rustad pounced on news this week that the police had arrested several people drug trafficking outside of a Nanaimo safe consumption site. He says it's evidence that these sites, which he called drug dens, are havens for crime.
I don't believe that is right for us to say it's okay to leave these people living on a street. I don't think that's right. I think as government we need to be more compassionate about that. We need to make sure that we provide some sort of quality of life for them as well.
Tomorrow, Rustad is making an announcement in Surrey, while EB is visiting several communities on Vancouver Island. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Nanaimo.
BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau unveiled her party's mental health plan in Creston. If the party forms government, she plans to expand MSP coverage for mental health services with access to 6 fully covered visits to a mental health professional. The party says it wants to make mental health care accessible and effective for everyone in the province.
Mental health is something that we have to recognize as being a part of our healthcare system. We have a lot of conversation right now about involuntary mental health care, but what we are lacking in British Columbia is a voluntary mental health care system.
Furstenau says some people who need mental health supports may not be able to afford it. The Greens also plan to regulate psychotherapy treatment and review the Mental Health Act. They also want to integrate mental health supports into 911 services. Furstenau also faced questions over the party's lower showing in recent polls. She says a legislature where one party has all the power will not serve all British Columbians. She is encouraging voters to return a minority government. The BC Conservative Party, meanwhile, has promised, if elected, to change the way sexuality and diversity is taught in schools. SOGI 123 teaching materials have been the subject of controversy since they were established in 2016. But as Chad Poston explains, these educational resources are proving to be a key issue in this year's campaign.
Marching, chanting, and even fighting. How gender and diversity is taught in schools and with what materials has created conflict on BC's streets. The issue could factor in the province's election. BC Conservative leader John Rustad promises changes.
SOGI itself has become too divisive. It's become very problematic. Many parents want to see it go. So we need to remove that and make sure that parents have their rights to understand and engage with their kids in schools.
What Rustad is talking about is SOGI 123, or Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, established in schools in 2016 as part of anti-bullying policies by the then governing BC Liberals, which John Rustad was a part of. SOGI 123 is not a curriculum, but guides and resources to help teachers address discrimination and bullying and create supportive and inclusive environments for LGBTQ students. Educators say detractors simply misunderstand it.
Absolutely a very misunderstood part of education. They have absolutely made schools, classrooms a safer place. That's feedback that comes from our members. It's feedback that comes from students when they're asked.
Some parents maintain SOGI encourages children to change genders. Others say it goes against religious values and is an overreach by the public education system.
SOGI is infringement upon parents' rights.
It's this sentiment that John Rustad has aligned himself with. He got into politics over education. His first election win was as a Prince George School District trustee. His first question in the legislature last October as the new Conservative leader, it was about SOGI.
Parents are concerned about the sexualization of their children in this NDP government's education system. Will the minister admit that SOGI 123 has been divisive, an assault on parents' rights, and a distraction on student education?
The question drew fire from BC NDP leader David Eby. His government expanded SOGI to all 60 school districts, saying it's here to stay, to ensure no student should be excluded or bullied because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. Rustad, Eby says, is picking the wrong issue for an election fight.
It is outrageous that he would stand here and do this. He sees political advantage in picking on kids and families and teachers and schools who are just trying to do their best For kids who are at risk of suicide, Honourable Chair, shame on him. Choose another question.
John Rustad argues BC classrooms are politically biased and insists changes are needed for schools to be places of learning, not for activism and indoctrination. Kids must be taught how to think, not what to think, he says. It's also not just about SOGI, but books and libraries, alleging some are pornographic and inappropriate. Even though educators say they are not, police in Chilliwack agreed after investigating a complaint about a book at a school potentially containing child pornography. Investigators concluded, while the material may be deemed inappropriate or concerning to some people, said the investigation, it does not constitute child pornography. So why is this an election issue at all if changes to long-established education practices could repel as many or more people they're meant to attract? Political watchers say the issue for the Conservatives may be about showing how different they are from the NDP.
I'm not surprised that they are making it an election issue, because if we think about the kind of issues that they can point and could create easy divides, sort of lines in the sand that separate them from the NDP on issues that, again, especially can speak to centrist voters.
So this election could help determine if this issue is important enough to bring about actual change. In the meantime, educators want voters who feel unease about SOGI 1, 2, 3 or books and libraries to speak openly with teachers about it, and not with marching, chanting, and placards on street corners. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
The VCC Clark SkyTrain station was shut down today because of an unstable crane nearby. Transit police say the crane began to shift with a large load attached at a construction site on Keith Drive near Clark and East 6th Avenue.
VCC Clark SkyTrain station is closed indefinitely due to a public safety matter, and the street from on East 6 from Glen Drive to Clark is also closed. We have a bus bridge in place at the northwest corner.
As of 9:30 tonight, East 6 was still closed as crews worked to remove the load. TransLink says an extra bus service has been added between Main Street Science World and Glen Drive. Shuttle buses can be boarded at Commercial Broadway Station or near East 2nd Avenue and Main Street. The Expo Line and Canada Line were unaffected. The city says it is working with the contractor as well as WorkSafe BC, TransLink, and police to ensure the safety of the public and workers in the area. Israel has rejected calls for a ceasefire, with Lebanon conducting strikes near the edge of Beirut. Hundreds of thousands of Lebanese living in the south have fled their homes towards the capital. And as Michelle Gassoub reports, their families here in BC are becoming increasingly concerned as the violence escalates.
I've been hearing airplanes here, and I've been noticing that I'm like getting like worried, and then I'm like, you're not there.
This round of violence between Israel and Lebanon brings back painful memories of the 2006 war for Rinoa Yassin. Now, once again, her family has been forced to flee their village of Atshit in southern Lebanon.
They woke up to their glass shattering, and then they literally ran away, my cousin and his wife, with his, just like, he left the phone, he left everything, he was wearing slippers, and they got in the car.
She says it took her family 15 hours to make the drive to Beirut, as tens of thousands of Lebanese made the treacherous journey to the capital. 2 Canadians, Daad and Hussein Tabadja, were killed by an Israeli strike as they attempted to make that same drive. Canada is now calling for an immediate 21-day ceasefire along the Lebanon-Israel border.
My main wish is for this to stop, but I just don't want it to spread. Like, we just hope it doesn't spread because people want to know where to go.
For the 200,000 Canadians with ties to Lebanon, it's an all too common feeling after a series of escalating crises.
Since the big explosion that happened 3 years ago, a lot of people, if they hear one sound, suddenly they just jump from their seats.
The advice for Canadians: leave Lebanon now. But many commercial flights are being cancelled. And even with the escalating danger, there's a desire to return home.
This was planted for me, because my dad asked each of us, which tree do you want planted? And I said, I want a palm and olive tree.
Yassine is supposed to shoot a documentary about her father's land in the south, but she's not sure when she'll be able to return, especially as Israeli reservists move towards the border.
If you really want to see this war ending, you need to put more pressure.
That dream, like so many others, now on hold. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
After the break, we'll catch up with Sonia Furstenau to find out who the BC Greens leader really is. That's next. Returning now to the BC election, the leader of BC's Green Party is hoping a big move will help her keep her in the legislature. Sonia Furstenau is running in a different riding this provincial election campaign. She's hoping voters will let the Greens play a pivotal role between the two other main parties. The CBC's Dan Burrett reports.
It's where my home is, it's where my family is, it's where I live.
Family is calling Sonia Furstenau back to Victoria. After 2 terms as the MLA for Cowichan Valley, Furstenau is aiming to win a riding long held by the NDP in the capital, Victoria Beacon Hill.
My oldest is 30, and he's about to become a father.
Fabulous. Congratulations.
And I'm so excited. And he and his wonderful wife live just a couple blocks from our home in Fairfield. My youngest son is in second-year university. He and 4 of his friends are living downstairs because there's, as you know, a pretty serious lack of affordable housing.
Her island roots run deep.
Moved to Victoria when I was 20, got 3 degrees at UVic.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
And the teacher-turned-politician says she got things done in her first 2 terms.
We've had historic investments in Cowichan in the last 7 years. Hospital, a high school, the hospice, a youth emergency shelter, addictions and treatment, successful model for homelessness.
Furstenau was part of the confidence and supply agreement the Greens hammered out with the NDP in 2017. She's asking voters to deliver the same this election.
We delivered a lot for BC in those 3 years with a minority NDP and the Greens holding the government to account. Minority governments are excellent because the public and the opposition parties are able to hold the government accountable. In the last 4 years, we've seen a government just willing to ram through legislation.
On the environment, Furstenau says the Greens will increase the carbon tax, but also increase the carbon rebate for low and middle income earners. She pledges to end carbon offsets and invest money collected from industries into climate action projects. Furstenau wants to see a larger shift to renewable energy. Natural resource advocates like Cody Battershill with Canada Action says Canada still needs to share with the world.
I hope that the Green Party and all politicians across the entire country will recognize it's time to work together, and there's a lot of good we can do when we build up our natural resource workers in communities.
Furstenau is also pushing for free transit throughout the province and a rethink of healthcare, setting up community centres in each of BC's 93 ridings.
Then allows doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, physician assistants, psychologists, social workers, all these allied healthcare professionals to build a team that works for their community.
Amid BC's grinding poison drug crisis, Furstenau wants to expand the safer supply of opioids and other drugs and has the support of former Chief Coroner Lisa Lapointe. She's cautious about expanding involuntary care.
Let's focus on the much more effective, both cost-effective but effective for the well-being of people, approach to this which says when a person needs help, it's going to be there for them.
And while he's chairing the Greens campaign, Furstenau's only fellow Green MLA is not running for re-election. Adam Olsen, the MLA for Saanich North and the Islands, is stepping down after 2 terms. He says Furstenau is skilled at working across political divides.
Really, do we want to go back to a 2-party binary system where it's, good or bad or good or evil, yes or no? I think most British Columbians know that the issues that we face today are more complex than that.
And Sonia Furstenau is counting on her commitment to evidence to shape policy and win votes.
It's all rooted in this vision that I have, that this province can and should be the best place to live on earth. It really should. And we can make it that way with good decisions.
Dan Burrett, CBC News, Vancouver.
We'll have your full forecast after the break. Stay with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our weather. Another wet day, Darius.
Yes, but the last one for a little while, it seems. If we take a look here, we've seen that stream of atmospheric moisture start to head south. There is still a little bit lingering over the north and central coast, so expect to see a few more showers there. The rain may be heavy at times over the next few hours, but should start to lighten up a little bit into the morning. No guarantees that it will be gone completely. It does seem like there'll be some more rain for both the north and central coast tomorrow, but it doesn't seem like it'll be as severe as today. If you watch what's going to happen over the next few hours here, again, still some rain lingering over the northern half of the island. A few showers are still likely for much of the lower mainland, but we're starting to see some clearing out into tomorrow morning. By the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny day across virtually all of the south coast. The cloud, but not the rain, moves back in for Saturday. There may be a few showers popping up, including possibly here in the lower mainland, but then we see that clear out once again for what seems to be looking like it is trending towards the sunnier side of a mix of sun and cloud for Sunday and Monday. I wouldn't say that it's going to be completely sunny just yet, but it does seem like there'll be some decent sunshine coming down for both of those days as we get into the end of the weekend and early next week. Again, a little bit of heavy precipitation still happening on parts of the central coast. This is model data, not radar, but it does seem to be panning out what's happening here. Some decent snow in many places. There's been a big temperature drop up in the northern parts of the province. The northwest is getting down to -2 tonight, so seeing some snow up there as well. Likely to see those showers mixed with flurries as we get into tomorrow. Also worth mentioning that wind that we've had, extremely high wind, is starting to calm down as we get into tomorrow. Still some decent wind at times in the early morning, but starting to calm down. And again, in terms of those temperatures, big drop up in the northwest. Those lower temperatures are likely to fall even more tomorrow up there, but the temperatures in the south are sort of fluctuating around 20 degrees or so. But again, quite chilly in the days ahead. There's definitely going to be some drops in temperature as we get into the end of the weekend and again early next week. Still some sunshine though across much of the southern half of the province as we get into tomorrow. Probably potentially some early morning showers in Victoria, lingering a little bit further for parts of the mainland, including in Whistler. But as we get into our 5-day forecast here in Vancouver, again, Janella, expect to see clearing out tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy day on Saturday. Possibly with some showers, although not have it in here because it doesn't seem too likely, and then mostly sunny days ahead before potentially the showers return on Tuesday.
Thanks so much, Darius. That is your late news. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.